Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 4 is, I guess, our public hearing to consider assessment of unpaid utility bills. So I guess in our packet, along with Resolution 1834, what do we got, 4 of them?
How many did we start with?
There were 7, I believe. It was paid down about half from what it was.
Well, I guess if there's no one here to speak,
Questions?
is there any questions from anybody from the city council, comments? Okay, I guess with that, we'd close the public hearing and move to item number 5, and that would be to consider adopting resolution 1834, certifying those unpaid utility charges in Todd County.
So moved.
Motion by Ron, second by Mary. Any discussion? Okay, not hearing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So does that go on this year's tax statement then, or next? Next year's?
Certified before November.
Oh, okay. But they still would have time to go pay them if they.
They have to pay within 30 days, and if they don't, they go to the county, and then they can't pay until the property tax bill comes out.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to item number 6, and that's to consider approval of a site use agreement with Lutheran Social Services for meal service at the community center.
You've got in front of you a copy of the agreement, largely the same as it's been in previous years. Dollar amount went up a little bit, added some language on insurance company or insurance, liability insurance needs to be provided, and just some details on times of the day that they're in there. So I recommend that we approve the LSS site use agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mary. I didn't catch the second. Ron? Okay. No one else is. So motion by Mary, second by Ron. Any discussion, questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. That'll move us to item number 7, and that's to consider approval of budget amendments. In your council, or in your packet, there's page 11, memo from Diane.
So this is basically to get ready to close out 2020 and some of the budget carry forwards, bringing it from 20 into 21. So I'll turn it over to Diane. She can walk us through it.
The first page is on the 2020 amendments, so those are either an increase to revenue and an increase to the expense budget, or a decrease to the expense budget and an increase to a different expense budget. So all of the budget amendments are offsetting, and there's one for election expenses. The city received 2 different grants, one for the presidential election and one for COVID. That was unforeseen. The building permit fees, again, came in higher than anticipated. And so the building inspector expense was higher than anticipated. Those offset each other. There's 2 for fire state aid and fire training aid. And then there's several for just moving capital outlay items into building maintenance. And then the last are for CRF funding, that was the COVID relief. So the first expenses that we had before the money came in, we reimbursed back to the fund that they came from. And then on the second page are the proposed carryforwards for 2021. So these are reducing either expenses or increasing revenue in 2020 and carrying that budget amount forward to 2021. And there's one for administrative fees. The next one is related to I believe the next item on the council agenda, the software purchase. And then the Dower Lake parking lot that was not completed in 2020 will be carried forward to be able to be done in 2021. And then there was a street bulk purchased late in 20 that was not received till 21. So that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So if anybody doesn't have any questions,
I will move approval of budget amendments 2020 and budget carryforwards for 2021.
you got a motion by Ron?
Second.
Ron? Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That moves us to item number 8, and that's to consider approval of service agreement with okay. Software for building inspection, code enforcement, online submittals and payment and licensing in the amount of $7,500 with the annually with $4,250 implementation fee.
So as I've mentioned over the last couple of months, as part of my report, we've been looking at different software applications, to handle our permitting, also for our building permit, also largely the rental license process that we go through every year. And Diane found these folks. We also looked at Tyler Technology for the same purpose. iWorks, or I think everybody that participated in those trainings, much better, intuitive process. It provides online portal, basically, so people can go on and submit building permit applications or zoning permit applications electronically. We can review them, approve them electronically. They can pay for them online through the portal. But the building permits, zoning permits, rental, housing licenses right now are basically all paper. Everything comes in, it's got to be filed. If you need to get that information, you go back into the file cabinets. Building permits, it comes in. Scott has them out for a period of time during the project, then they go into a pile on the desk until they end up getting filed. With the software, it'd be a lot of time saved, especially with the rental licensing, and just having all of the information in one spot. Go out, do an inspection, take photos, put it on there. It's always going to be attached to that parcel. Somebody calls and says, I bought a house, my garage is on my neighbor's, do you know when it was built? It's all, going to be right there. So, good, I think very good software. All of the people that we've talked to that use it currently like it. And Diane, if you have any additional comments on it, but I think it's going to really improve the workflow of all of that permitting and licensing that we have.
It has a map functionality so that the inspector can look up where he's going on the map, and they'll be able to do the inspection review, so that if you bring up a parcel that somebody calls about and says, well, what's wrong with it, or do you have the inspection report, it will have it. Right now, it's with the rental license inspector. So we can't provide any information that people request related to the rental housing inspections. So all the information needed, and you can go to a parcel and see all the activity for that parcel. So if there's been a building permit, if it's a rental housing license, either now or in the past, it'll just, I've looked at lots of software in past places, and this is like a dream come true. So they think that you'll never see, but there it is, and it's inexpensive.
So will archived information be put in there too, or it would just be built in going forward?
The old stuff could be put in, you know. it'd be
But that's not
processed
part of
in.
this.
Not,
Okay.
This basically is to get it all set up. I think it'd be a great job for an intern to go back and, pull all those files and scan those documents in. But it comes up all the time, different things, and you go into the file, and some of the stuff was, back before we were, we had building permit process, it'll automate a lot of that record keeping.
So like the building permit, all of those would be part of that. You can pull up a parcel and see building permits to see rental.
Was this something that was in the budget, or how do we?
Basically looking at, with budget amendments, using building permit fees, excess building permit fees.
Extra building permit fees, doesn't Scott get primarily all of that?
No, he's 80%.
80%?
Yep.
We've had a lot of big fees too lately, so, I mean, in the last few years.
Oh, yeah, big projects, and that's, when we put the budget together and, initially in September and then finalize it in December, you have no idea, with very few exceptions, what the following year is going to be from a building permit standpoint. Even the remodel out at the clinic or out at the hospital that's going to start now shortly, we had no idea about that, so they pop up.
And it's $7,500 a year?
No. First year, there's that additional $4,250 for setup, and $7,500 a year.
So what's on this, the 1750 annual that on page 18? So we're
Yeah, there's different modules. Get to page 18 here. So there's different modules. They've got their, what they call their enterprise package, which does the, basically the permit type stuff, provides the home portal, the online portal, so people can go online and fill all this stuff out and make the payment. That also includes all the mapping information. The license management module is that 1750
okay.
That you got on there. So
Oh, I see. That one says annual too. Okay.
yeah.
How many different companies did we talk to about it? About getting it, or was it just a limited number?
We demoed two of them, this one, and then also the Tyler Technologies, which is the company that we anticipate going with for utility billing and finance stuff as part of the AMI process. But that, with Missouri River is not done negotiating with them, but the package for doing these things with Tyler was much more cumbersome and difficult to follow than this one. So, and then Diane has looked at a variety of other ones as well.
And they would get this all ready by the end of the year, or is there a timeline?
We think 60 days.
60 days?
60 days, that's usually the expense collection.
I just think something that big or that much expense, shouldn't that be a budget item? You know, normally put in the budget and handled that way rather than just middle of the year, all right. You know, I mean, it just seemed like we, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it should be a budget item rather than,
Well, it seems to me that this is secretarial, and we got a budget for that. If they don't go over budget, then why should we worry?
I think this is coming out of a budgeted item.
Well,
Part of that fees?
the carry forward basically covers the first year of this. You know, for 2022, when we sit down this fall in 2022, the budget, and more than likely it's going to be spread between rental, between building, and so forth, you know, would be where all that 7,500 would come from. So, but they're, you know, like I said, they're in the building permit fee from 2020, those came in higher, you know, than was budgeted. That's where the dollars would come from for the upfront cost of this, the first year and the setup fee.
And then it's $1,750 annually,
Oh, 75.
7,500.
For the whole thing. So if we don't want to do online, don't want to do the portal, don't want to do the mapping, don't want to use it for permitting, that would be $1,750. It'd just be the licensing module, but, or was that $2,250?
I think it was 2250
Yeah.
if you take out the other one.
Yeah, if it was just going to be utilized for licensing.
But you wouldn't have the online either, it would just be.
Right. No.
So I see on here, they've got like data conservation that's included for the first year. And then after that, it goes up to like 4,900. Would that be our cost yearly, even if we decide not to use them anymore? For them to hold on to the data that we have for permits and stuff that we used when we used them?
No, we would just export it. If we went away from it,
Export it, okay.
we'd just export it out,
Okay,
so. So we would, you know, we would still have all the records. But the folks that Diane talked to that are utilizing it, there was one guy, when he changed cities, he made sure to bring these folks in to do it. Just,
do we talk to towns that were 3,000 or that size, or do we talk to 30,000? Because it don't seem like we got that many permits. Justify the cost. That's a lot of money.
when you start looking at the annual rental licensing, the annual zoning permits and building permits, plus the rental inspection component of it, that's a lot of, you know, different sets of data.
Do we get,
What does our 20% of all that end up being roughly, you know? I mean, that's probably.
depends on the year, I suppose.
Yeah.
So if we don't get any permits, or if we get a couple shed permits or something.
But the rental licensing component is another spot where I would anticipate those costs to be spread going forward. We do have a lot of different things that, you know, come out of different funds.
$40.
Times
I don't know what Scott gets out of that. though.
350 a year or whatever.
But what does Scott get out of that?
They do an inspection every 2 years.
Yeah. And he gets the 40, or is that, or does,
$40 an hour, I think, for the inspector.
So depending on where depending on where he works, what cities he contracts with, he has to deal with whatever systems they have in place. You know,
On an average, how many building permits do we do a year?
1 to 200,
How many?
100 to 200, and we're up to about 450 rental licenses.
450 rentals last year? They inspected?
Not inspected yet, no, because it was paused due to COVID. So he just started it last week inspecting.
I guess, I wasn't really sure, but now, too, there's also a little bit of a, so as far as from the consumer side, the resident side, this'll kind of make their life easier too, be able to go do it online, correct? Is that,
We'll do it all online. Submit the, whatever the application or license application or building permit or zoning permit, all be done online. The fee can be paid through the portal. And that original application is kept there and it goes through the approval process.
so there's a little bit of a, from a benefit to providing that service. I'm just trying to kind of justify a little bit the.
In the world of software, this is not
No, it's not crazy.
expensive software. About anything we go with, you're gonna be paying, so it's going with something like this or staying with the paper system that we have right now.
That's not very accurate. Because you can have a piece of paper way over another file,
Or not in a file yet.
not in the file.
So how much of that, them 100 building permits, how many of them are like roofing permits and just a simple little form? How many of that, out of that 100 or 200 or whatever it might be, how many are, what's roughly, I mean, some of those aren't high tech, right? Somebody comes in and wants a bit roofing permit, they pay what, $25 or $30?
Well, it runs the range from roofing, siding, windows, all the way up to an addition,
Right.
at the school or.
I mean, I'm just trying to, it's $7,500 a year. That's a lot of money, and to just keep, I know we don't build that much, high-tech building permits. I mean, we're not, you can look around the town and see that's not happening. I just don't know. It seems like a lot of money to lay out for something that is pretty,
Is there time saving for
process.
staff time?
That's what I'm thinking. Some of this could come out of
Well,
secretarial.
we're probably paying more than the 7,500 just to have,
they're here anyway, right?
well, but there's other things they're doing too,
Or could be doing.
or could be doing. I think, I think it's a good idea to move out of paper pencil and to move into something that is easily accessible and will have the data where we need to get to it.
And put in.
And, yeah,
I always like to equate it with what's always said, like when we wanted to buy these tablets, it was like $9,500 or something like that. It was 1% increase in the budget. Well, $7,500 fee annually is almost 1% increase in the budget, right? I mean, that's what always gets put out there, so, when things don't want to be passed, or when somebody doesn't want to have something passed, it's always put out there that the cost in the budget, and that's almost 1%.
if it's offset by income, and we get that 1% in additional income, it's a wash.
Or we could use it for something else that we're already paying extra money for.
Well, the acceptance of this contract.
Okay, we have a motion by Mary,
I'll second.
second by Roy. I mean, we've had discussion. Is there any more discussion, questions?
Is this commonplace in towns our size, or are we being progressive with this? Are we behind on the times, or are we?
It's hard, it's hard to say. I don't know how many towns of 3,000 are utilizing a similar type of software.
The ones that I called for references were all smaller. So they said, they had a few permits and licenses, but it was well worth it because it saved them time and everything was in one place.
Yeah, I just looked up some reviews and they're all good.
Is, the water lines and things like that, is that gonna be in there too as well, like the shut-offs and stuff on the property? Will that be in there?
No,
too?
that's on the
That's on
GIS.
different.
Yeah,
different
yeah.
system.
It's hosted with DGR. But the parcel map of the city is all, they'll be able to just pull that in.
Now with this, you said they'll be able to like pay permit fees online. Now, do they take like a percentage of that payment? Like a credit card runs and then they take a percentage, so.
Right,
So they would take a small.
a small percentage. And that goes to the payment company, not to us.
Okay. So it'd be just like running a credit card if we ran them up here.
Right.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Was that you? Okay, motion carried. We'll move on to item number 9, and we have commission reports. We have, looks like one from P and Z.
Planning and zoning met on Thursday, the 4th of March, and basically continued our review of the zoning ordinance and performance standards. And a couple of different, things that we've talked about the last couple of months, and we'll, coming up again is going to be solar, but, big part of the discussion with this just, was basically to do with the performance standards that we had, enforcement of various ordinances that we have in place, and talked about programs like Paint the Town, the benefit of, somebody, if one property owner cleans up their property, anticipating that others will as well. And fence requirements for pools. There's kind of interesting that in a multifamily, a fence is required for a pool, but nothing is required for single-family residential. So they're probably going to propose to change that. Also talked about possible requirements for improved surfaces in the backyard for storage of either automobiles or campers or boats if they're parked in the backyard. And just updated planning and zoning on a few inspections and possible demolitions that are coming down the pipe for this summer. So it was a good discussion on planning and zoning, and it will continue.
Any questions for Joe?
So I want to have something I want to talk to you about afterwards. I shouldn't have it on public thing. And who does the police go around and do notices if people are out of compliance?
Some stuff.
nuisance stuff, okay.
You're not talking about the couch across the road from me, are you?
What?
The couch?
Yeah,
On Sixth Street,
it's
looking on.
it's survived the
Still there.
7 inches of snow.
It must have been there a while, cause it's cushion, somebody needed a cushion or two, like.
It's heavier than it was when they put it out there.
Okay, we'll move on then. I guess it's the open forum. No public here. Anybody have anything? Okay, we'll move on to city administrator's report. Or does that mean we're done with COVID?
Yeah.
We're all
I took it
together.
off and I'm like, good.
We're all together.
Yeah. So quite a list here tonight, so I'll try and run through it fairly quickly. Say this, local option sales tax bill that we're pursuing with the legislature this year. As you recall, the council passed a resolution requesting that. We did testify at a House tax hearing back on the 11th of March. I'm going to be testifying again Thursday morning with the Senate. I don't know if everybody saw on the league newsletter that went out electronically, the information in there. What the House actually did in their committee was they pulled ours, Floodwoods, and Warren's out of the sales tax arena. And they're basically proposing, and the language in the House committee report right now is they're proposing to increase our local government aid by $320,000 a year for 5 years, which equals the 1.6 million. As opposed to doing a referendum in November of 2022 and then taking 25 years to recoup that 1.6 million. I wasn't in the committee meeting when this discussion went on, but what Representative Poston, said was that, towns that have small retail, don't have the ability to generate as much sales tax in a given year. So a half % sales tax for us, based on what the average has been the last few years, is only right around 109,000. We need $1.6 million to go through and do everything on that list that we've talked about with the community center. So that's where things lie right now, according to Representative Poston. He feels that will be what comes out of the House side for the tax bill, that would be in there for the city of Staples. The Senate side hasn't done their process yet. We're gonna testify on Thursday morning, basically as a way to educate those senators on the committee about our project. And then at that point, Senator Gazelka will request that the Senate adopt the same language that the House has in their bill, which, would be the LGA increase to offset the cost of that project. So it'd be great, save a lot of money. You'd get a lot more work done if that ends up going through. And I say if because there's years where the tax bill doesn't even go through. You end up in the end of May and it's midnight and there's 6 people in a room and who knows what will happen. But I think from the city of Staples standpoint, what they're proposing would be wonderful, compared to the sales tax piece. So.
When will we see those monies there?
What's that?
When will we potentially see those monies?
When?
Yeah.
Starting with fiscal year 2022. So it would be even sooner than it would be with the sales tax. So, yeah. So we will obviously be in touch with our local legislators and, get them what they need to successfully make that argument down there. So that was a good Friday afternoon call.
They are having to spend a lot of time trying to sell the voters on that 0.5%
with the
local tax,
referendum.
and so that would be good.
Yeah, well, and
Be
you,
designated money, it wouldn't be something that we're gonna decide we're gonna do something else with it either, so.
and, you know, you look at, you know, not only the cost to, you know, either bond or otherwise borrow for the money on the front end, but then if you're having to pay back 1.6 million over 25 years as opposed to 5 years, you know, your actual debt service, your interest costs are so different, you know, which would, you know, create more dollars for improvements. So we'll see, you know, obviously nothing guaranteed right now, but we'll do
At
what
least
we
they
can
talked
to-
about it.
Yeah, yeah. There were communities that put in the sales tax requests that they did not approve in the House committee. I don't know which communities those were or what their request was for, but not everybody had theirs approved, so.
So if they don't do the 1 point whatever million, does that mean that's dead then for this year, the sales tax thing is? By them introducing this other proposal, then, does that take the other proposal off the table then? So that it wouldn't be, if they do the one, the other one does.
Right, I think the answer to that question, I haven't examined it all in writing, but, you know, if in the 11th hour, the LGA increase goes away, the sales tax option is still off the table. But the sales tax, the referendum wouldn't actually be until November of 2022, so we could come back next January and, you know, request something, but.
We would request that from the state legislature in January, and then we'd have to put it to the voters later in the year.
Yeah.
So it would still be 2022 either way.
Yeah. But, you know, Representative Poston sounds pretty, you know, pretty confident on the House side. And if Senator Gazelka and their majority want it in on the Senate side, it'll be in there. So it kind of leaves the governor's office to negotiate with, which could be interesting because I suspect that there's going to be quite a negotiation towards the end of the year. So hopefully we don't end up being leverage, but we will see. But I thought that was a great, you know, a great solution that the chair of that committee came up with. You know, otherwise you're raising sales tax revenue for 25 years for some pieces of equipment that aren't going to last that long.
So they approve, so the legislature approves a city to put in place a local sales tax only for a period of time,
Yeah.
and then it expires.
And, yeah, and that's, I mean, that's right in the legislation. And what they're actually doing is authorizing a referendum. And then if the referendum passes, then that sales tax is in place for 20 years or 25 years. I saw one out there for 30.
They determine that when they give the okay to have a referendum, all that goes into the same. So when you ask the voters to pass it, they're aware of how long it's going to be in
Oh,
place
yeah,
for.
yeah, that's all got to be spelled out in the ballot question. So, anyway, I'll keep you posted on that. City Clerk Finance Director position, the hiring has been posted to, you know, out there to multiple different sites. And, you know, applicants will work through David Drown Associates initially, do some screening, make sure applications are complete, and then be about the middle of April that we'll review applications. So it has started. Just a quick update on some airport project stuff. I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that MnDOT contacted us and they've got some additional dollars left over for this year. I don't know if it was due to the CARES Act federally covering 100% of projects, and so the state share, was left. So they were seeking out state only projects. And we had a couple that have been on our CIP for a while. One, we've got a project that, that the process has been moving crack sealing, doing a crack seal project on the runway, all the taxi lanes, the aprons. The other projects that have been on our CIP, door maintenance on all of the T-hangers. We did have a company come in here about a month and a half ago. We went out and inspected all the hangers, looked at seals, cables, pulleys, bearings, all of that type of stuff. So we've got a pretty good list put together. Fuel system, basically the pump system out there. So I'm waiting for a quote on that. Unfortunately, I don't know if any of you know or knew Oris Rattle from Minnesota Petroleum, who's one of the owners of the company. I've been waiting and waiting for him to get an updated quote to me. I found out he passed away 2 days ago. And so I'll let him off the hook. But so I was contacted by another employee over there, and they are going to get that to me. And then the other project that's been on our list is just some fix-ups to our arrival departure building. Windows, some steel on the roof, and possibly siding if it's going to come off. So anyway, but when I get all those estimates back, we'll have an airport board meeting, look at everything, and bring a recommendation to the council on those projects. Also, community center related, with this American Recovery Act, federal EDA received some funding, I guess quite a bit of funding above and beyond what their normal annual allocation is. And Cheryl Hills reached out to Chris initially, and then I got involved, basically requesting that we submit application for community center improvements. And so we're taking a look at that. She's talking, I think she said, she wouldn't ask for anything less than $3 million. Looking at the 1.6 federal would be a great match, or 1.6 of state money would be a great match for a federal project. And that would go a long ways towards trying to address some of the ADA stuff and get the entrance back on the west side and get it, a lot of that stuff dealt with. So we will see. The notice of funding availability, I think, was coming out today or sometime this week. So we'll pull that and look at it and make a determination if that's going to be a good fit. That's something that Melissa used to do when she was at Region 5, put those applications together. So talking with her about helping us out on getting a project submitted to the EDA if it makes sense to do so. Citywide Cleanup, mentioned earlier, June 11th, from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock, that's Friday night. And one change on the cleanup, we are gonna do household hazardous waste as well, which is something that we have not done in the past, but working with the transfer station down in Browerville, they basically, over the course of the summer, residents can bring that, their paint and leftover bleach or whatever it is down there and dispose of it for free. So what we're gonna do is basically have a trailer on site on cleanup day that people can bring all that stuff. We'll put it in the trailer, and then the following week, we'll just take it down to Browerville. So provide a convenient way for people to get rid of that kind of stuff without driving. Got a couple of building inspections that Scott Sadusky and I are going to do on Friday afternoon. We ended up getting administrative search warrants for a couple of properties that we've been trying to get into to do inspections on. So we will be doing that and checking on the interior conditions of those properties. It's unfortunate that you end up having to get a court order to get people to return a phone call, but it worked. So we'll get in there. Both property owners are going to be meeting us and letting us in, so. Then lastly, we don't have a whole lot of details yet on this, but in the American Rescue Plan, the city of Staples will be getting $341,640 allocated over a 2-year period. That the details on what it can and can't be utilized for aren't really out yet. Just some general guidelines. One of the things that we know that we can utilize it for is revenue lost during the COVID shutdowns. So I would anticipate some of our utility type stuff, parks, community center, facilities that were shut down with no revenue coming in. And, so we're kind of going through 2020 revenue compared to 2019 and taking a look at what was impacted. And we'll obviously bring the laundry list to the council. I think the first year payment will be coming in June. So it's not quite the race that we had last year. Funds can be spent up to 2024. So, but I thought I would let you know about that. You probably may have seen that in the league stuff as well. But so anyway, snow's melting and things are getting busy. Anybody have any questions?
Motion by Roy, second by Ron to adjourn. All in favor?